Good afternoon, honourable members, guests in the gallery, guests in the chamber. It is indeed a pleasure for me on a Saturday afternoon to be sitting in my chair and welcoming you once again to Parliament. Today is indeed a special day for us because it is the first ever event of this kind, and I am so thrilled. And it is important that I acknowledge your contribution by being present today in terms of making the day a success. We are now going to get into the procedural aspect of our deliberations, because this morning we had commissions, we had inputs, but because we don't want things to be a talk shop, the members of the multi-party committee had agreed that whatever it is we deliberate on actually be documented and that we have a resolution so that we can take the work that we have done today and we can take our inputs and we can actually take it forward. So this is the reason for the formal session. And for those of you who have never been here before, this is actually what happens every Thursday afternoon at 2:15 when this House has its sittings. So you might have what is called a blue paper in front of you. It is called the order paper. And in terms of the orders of the day, we're going to have 3 orders. And the orders are exactly those themes which we had worked with. So I am indeed now going to ask the Secretary to read the first order of the day.
Debate on Commission 1's report, Human Trafficking, How to Prevent Human Trafficking in the Western Cape.
Thank you to the Secretary. I would now like to call on the rapporteur for the topic on human trafficking to rise, introduce yourself, and you may then present your findings to the House. Thank you.
Good afternoon to the House at large. I am Anatim Mogeza, and I'm speaking on behalf of everyone who is there to speak on how to prevent human trafficking in the Western Cape. Now, we basically had a general conversation and a discussion on what exactly human trafficking, how it manifests itself within the country and why it's a problem, and what can be done to combat that. And we do note that mass mobilization would be most effective in helping to combat this extensive issue, and that we need men and people from all walks of life, and we in fact need the backing of institutions in this whole society approach to help us combat this issue. We came up with various solutions and various suggestions for how we can get this to become something that people are aware of and something that people are able to speak on and that people are able to fight combatively, and how we can make tangible change. So one of the suggestions is that we use a sort of SMS kind of mechanism by using. So when someone gets a please call me, the message that comes along with that is something to warn people about human trafficking, to let them know that how they can help people in those situations. Campaigns that can happen, that we can contact big businesses and like Vodacom, for example, and how we can use people with platforms on social media to help make this something that people are aware of. Another suggestion was a local WhatsApp group where women are aware that women that they don't necessarily know personally are also watching out for them, because we acknowledge that being told to just be vigilant is not necessarily the best advice that you can get, and that instead makes you more wary of the people around you. But to build a trust in between civilians and in between between you and the people around you, you have a local WhatsApp group where you can tell people that I'm going to a certain place now, and people will be like, well, send us the contact details, for example, your Uber driver, so that we know who is taking you there and that you get there safely. Please let us know. Things like that. Something else that came up was the training of SAPs to enforce and be aware of what is going on. So what we are calling for is the development of a human trafficking offences register. There isn't one at the moment, and when offences are reported, the response we get is that it can't correctly be sort of categorized, or it can't exactly be followed through to do tangible work to make sure that it doesn't become even bigger of an issue. So we're working towards making it an issue that isn't so big and also eradicating it completely from our country. Now, what that would mean is that we need to find out the root of where this problem stems from and how to help the victims from it. And instead of leaving them in a victim sort of mindset, to change them to see that they're actually survivors of something horrible that's happening to them. Something else that we're aware of is that people don't necessarily know that they are victims because of the sly way that human trafficking can happen, especially when it happens in relationships and things like that. So the third thing that came up in our conversation pretty prominently is the point of education. With that, we have decided that we need partnership between us and the education department. So as the provincial legislature, there should be partnership with the WCED so that syllabuses, for example, with subjects like life orientation, do actually speak about human trafficking, and that the youth is aware that this is what's happening to their peers, this is what is happening to people younger than them, to people older than them, so that they know what is going on and are aware of what's going on around them, and come up with solutions to help it, and are mobilized to actually want to do something about it. Something that came up is that people are not necessarily compassionate or passionate about something that they don't know about, first of all, and something that doesn't apply to them. And with what we've seen and heard today, we now know that each and every one of us is as much of a victim as the next person, or is at as big of a threat as the next person. And because we all feel threatened, we now also have emotional connection to what human trafficking is, and are now mobilized to want to do something about it. We spoke about Human Trafficking Awareness Week. Now, this week is actually happening next week, the first week of October, and the color to represent human trafficking is purple. So what we came up with is that within schools, in that first week of October, or for example, for a whole month, there can be a drive where people can buy purple ribbon or just wear purple ribbon on their school blazers and things like that to show that they stand in solidarity with victims of human trafficking, with people who are within the system, with them knowing that, or actually not even aware of the fact that they are a part of that. Just to stand in solidarity with like our sisters and brothers who do get caught up in something that not very many people know about. And the more people know about it, the more that people can actually do something about it. Which leads me to our fourth and main point of mobilization. You'll remember that during the Oscar Pistorius case, there were women marching to the courthouse to stand outside and speak against what was happening, and to go and stand in solidarity with Riva Steenkamp, and to go and show that they were not happy with the situation. So now we can also highlight key cases that are happening in courts, so we can also do the same and go stand in solidarity of the victims of those cases and show them our support. We said that women's gatherings were also very important. Instead of making those gatherings centered around a specific theme, for example, like solely based on human trafficking, that won't necessarily attract all the attention that it should, neither will it attract as many people as it should. So the bigger that is and the more broad it is, for example, if we make it a value for life theme, more women can relate to that, and more women will have a reason to be there. And within those talk shops and within those community workshops and those information sessions, you give people enough information to know about what's going on, and you empower them to be able to do something about it by giving them the knowledge of what exactly is going on, and giving them contact details for what can they do to help with that, what can they do to help people who are caught up in those situations, and how they can make other people aware. We also have details for things that are happening in the country to raise awareness. For example, there's an A21 campaign happening on the 14th of October. That is a walk against human trafficking. You guys heard the sad statistics about what's going on in the country and how only 1% of the people who do get caught up in it actually manage to leave it. So that's against that. Also, during the 16 days of activism, from the 5th to the 8th of December, there will be a walk within the 4 days from Rawsonville to Beaufort West to claim the N1 back for the women and children who do get victimized and who do have the worst sort of things happen to them. Lastly, social media awareness is really important. We do acknowledge that it's becoming a bigger and bigger platform that more people are connected to, and we could in fact utilize that as something that we can use for the better of this movement, and to make it so that lots more people can stand in solidarity with women. So not only women get caught up in human trafficking, we do acknowledge that too, and people from young ages, such as the age of 3, can get caught up with this, and people who are much older and don't actually have the power to defend themselves also get caught up in it. We do encourage that men And teenagers, old people, the elderly, everybody stands in solidarity with these people so that they know they have the support of the society and community around them. That's very important for somebody to feel safe once they have come out of a traumatic experience. And then lastly, to just involve district officers and local NGOs in what we do as individuals, because the bigger our movement is, the more people it affects, the more people join it, and the more people that we can help. Thank you.
Thank you for a very detailed feedback on that theme. I will now have to say that concludes the debate on that report and actually ask the members and guests, are there any objections to the report being adopted by the House? If there are no objections, it's agreed to. Thank you. We will now ask the Secretary to read the second order.
Debate on Commission 2's report, Protecting Sex Workers in the Western Cape.
Thank you. I now recognize the rapporteur for the second work group. I would like to just ask before you rise that you identify yourself and say who you are for the record, as we are going to capture all the detail. Thank you. The rapporteur for the second work theme. I recognize the Honourable Patricia Franke.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Councillor Franke. I'm from the Salga Women's Commission. I'm also a councillor in the City of Cape Town. Thank you very much for this opportunity. Our topic was, as it was read, and our discussion point were, the Commission deliberated on whether the sex work be legalized or not. What do we gain from criminalization or discriminalization it? Then we're going to go on to the issues or the recommendations that we spoke about. We said this, number one, as a long-term solution, the Commission felt that there is a need to legalization to discriminate the work, sorry, a little bit nervous. Regular sex workers by making sure that there is protection for sex workers. There is a health inspection and the market entry is monitored. No girl or boy enters the market. What we are actually saying here is that we are looking at, yes, we want this to happen, and that's the reason why we're here today, to legalization, this work for us. But we also say, on the other hand, that we have a limit, that we don't want younger children to be part of this. We are focusing on the elderly or the bigger group that knows and understands what it's all about. But if we look at the younger children, like from age 13 to 15, they are still children, and we cannot legalize that as far as we understood the content of this. We are also asking that the health inspection in the market, that we would like at clinics and health sectors come in and assist these sex workers, because our understanding, it is good to go out there, but they don't know who or what they are in for. So we are asking that must be a priority, that we will see that health comes on board and be part of them, because at some places you will find that these women have good access to lots of things, and some other places they don't have anything like that. And also to look at a better word than the term sex worker. Ladies, I'm perturbed when I hear the word sex worker. I'm stressed out to the bottom of my bones, because I understand that as a young child I always heard that people were talking about sex workers. There the sex workers are going. In my own family, I had this where I had to look at my auntie's children while the two aunties are going out. I didn't know what it was until I grew up with the word, they are going to do their sex work now. My perception is here in this house that we please change this word. In our area, my community, we call them our queenies. And we know exactly when we say our queenies, a lot of us know who they are, and we understand why they're there. We sometimes give them lifts, we sometimes have coffee and tea with them, because they are our sisters and we need to appreciate them for who they are. Also, what we have said is there's an NGO called SWET and any other NGOs to take the role on and expand the empowerment to operate in all areas to assist and monitoring and evaluation. What we're asking here is that I've heard now all of a sudden somebody speaks about the rural areas. The rural areas, once again, it seems like we're still in the apartheid where we're speaking of the black areas and the informal settlements, and we use all these names. What I'm asked the House here today is to look that we are saying either the Western Cape or we're saying whatever, but we cut rural out because that is in our apartheid years where we used to talk, they are in the rural areas. Please, if the House can consider this, this is a very important point that I would like to raise. We are all sisters and brothers, and we are all in South Africa. We are also asking that we, in the sense of that, the health and monitoring, that we also ask that we would look at if we have this evaluation and monitoring system going and strong, we will then also be looking at the decrease of HIV infections, gender-based violence, and young ones entering the market. To me, this House, I believe in monitoring, I believe in valuation. If something is not monitored, it can go down the drains. A lot of us spend a lot of money on certain projects, but you don't get the results. So I am one of those, I like to see results. And if we follow this, we can see good results. Number 3, there is a need to urgently deal with SAPS members who are abusing sex workers as a short-term solution. To the House, we've heard in our group that even our police people that needs to assist us, to keep us safe, we must be comfortable when we go into a police station. Those are some of the perpetrators that comes out and then do also their bit and their duty and think nothing of the sex person. I want to urge this House to make, as we appeal now for a short-term solution, how are we going to address this issue? Because there was one person that mentioned it, that the sex, her daughter's not even a sex person. Her daughter is a child. She's still at school, and the police van comes right to her door to come and look for her daughter. And when she even went there to go and lay a charge against this person, nothing happened until today, which meaning that we don't have a right as a woman, we don't have a right as a sex worker, we don't have a right as a child, because the police that should protect us is now actually doing the same act as any other perpetrator out there. Then we ask that the sex workers needs to be supported by our provincial government, please, if it's possible. There is a need for a continued dialogue of civil society with the ministers, members of provincial parliament on this matter. We, as we sit here today, I'm asking that Parliament must look and take the lead in this for us. They need to run this for us, and we will follow. We always see that if there's things happening in our communities like rapes and murders, people are picketing, going to the courts. And what we're asking here, that we do exactly the same for our sex workers. We stand here as women today. We stand in the shoes of each and every woman, each and every sex worker today. We are not going to discriminate anybody, but for the House, it is our right to assist them. It is their right to do what they want. My last point, sex education plays an important role. What we are asking here is that if sex education can start in our schools, you go to the soccer clubs where the youth is playing, youth engagements with, we've got a lot of youth NGOs out there, that we start educating our youth in that form, so when it comes to sex worker or whatever, they have a little bit of understanding. They would understand what is their right, what is not their right. It would be their right to say yes or no. To the House this afternoon, we feel strong. If we have a system going, we cannot fail neither our youth, neither our sex workers. I thank you.
Thank you, Patricia Franke. I see 2 hands. I see the Honourable Schaefer and Honourable Makaleni, and then the Honourable Bierwinkel.
Speaker,
So if we could, ladies, please just work with me now. Let us deliberate. A report has been presented and there is a speaker on the floor, so we'll just go through the process.
so one is that's what has been presented by this working group is that they're not in favour of legalising sex workers, and I'd just like to be very mindful of decriminalising sex work versus legalising sex workers. The one shows, decriminalising means the right of choice of an individual to choose to do this as work. And we need to have an open mind, just if you can bear me out, Speaker, is that it's very different to legalising, because the right to work in whatever job you choose to do has then a form of positive legislation, and people in that position have rights. The rights to pensions, I don't know, all those things. And I would be very careful to vote and support a view that is as strong as that. I would rather that we take two separate, my proposal is that we would rather look at decriminalising sex workers, but not legalising sex workers, so that we are very clear on its definition and that we don't take away the human rights, the right to work.
Thank you, Member Schaefer. I see the Honourable Makaleni.
Thank you, Speaker. My issue, Speaker, are on the issue of calling rural areas and not. I think we are not at the stage in South Africa where, in fact, anywhere in the world, you will find rural areas. And I think we are not at the stage where we are ready to say South Africa is equally. Everything that we find in the city is found in the rural areas. For now, can we leave things as they are until they are sorted out? But in the meantime, we should be mobilizing and lobbying to ensure that the situation in the rural areas is changed for the better. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Makaleni. And then I see Honourable Bierwinkel had a hand up. And then I'll see the Honourable Maseko.
No, thank you, Chair. I've been covered by Member
Thank
Maseko.
you.
Thank you. I mean,
Honourable Maseko, and then the lady.
Makaleni, I just love you, man.
Oh, sorry, have you changed? All right.
Member Makaleni covered me.
You covered, sorry. Then Honourable Maseko, and then I see the lady at the back with the turban. Your hand has been up, yes.
Thank you very much, Speaker. I think I agree with the member with the issue of the rural. It's one of the issues that we didn't discuss in the group because we emphasize that there need to be a spread of sweat to go to the rural areas so that there can be monitoring of what is happening there, the NGOs to help in the rural areas. So that is not what came out of that. But when coming to the issue of the sex workers to be legalized, what we said is that we need to check if we can have a legislation that can talk to that, because the reality is sex workers are here and they're here to stay. We need to be mindful to say that they are at risk as we speak now. And the proposal from different NGOs that are dealing directly with these sex workers, they're saying to us that, look, this is what's happening. There is a danger that is happening. Be mindful that if we do have a legislation because if we have a legislation, there's going to be a regulation talking to what is happening there. You won't have a girl child or a boy child being introduced into the system that is a sex worker. So we come on there that let's look, so we are motivating that this House has to look at having a legislation that can have a control on the sex workers that is not open for everybody, even a 3-year-old. Looking at the report that came out of the Media 24, that we have a grade 3 up to grade 5, that we have pregnant kids that are about 193 in this country, at grade 3, 4, and 5. When you take 5 to 7, it's about 1,000 and something. So something has to happen. There's something that is going wrong in this country that we are saying, let's put a legislation that will talk to sex workers, and then after that, others they will fall in. That's what we are proposing to this House. Look at seeing that we can control, we can have a monitoring tool to the sex workers.
Thank you, Honourable Maseko. I recognise the lady, first the lady with the turban, and then the first rapporteur. Thank you.
Thanks, Madam Speaker. I'm partly covered because I'm from a rural area. Never been afraid to say that. We cannot I'm partly covered. We cannot today deny that there are cities and there are rural areas. We are fine with it. Whoever looks down on us because we are rural, we don't have a problem. That's precisely, we must make it a point, and especially in this province. We need to put resources precisely in rural areas, that the rural areas people doesn't come and put up ichochombe up. So let it remain. I ask with all plea to that commission, let rural and urban remain, because we can't deny it.
Thank you. Your point is noted. May I see the sister, the rapporteur? So if you may just mention your name, young lady, I'd appreciate
I'm
that.
Anathi Mugeza.
Thank you.
Thank you, Speaker. I was also just speaking on the point that Honourable Makeleni made on changing the names of things. There are situations where it has been necessary. For example, in Gugulethu with the renaming of the streets, where it isn't okay for places to be referred to as native yards, because native is universally has negative connotations to it. But when it comes to things such as calling people sex workers, for that is their work, changing it to something a bit more conservative kind of trivializes what they stand for, because it changes what it is that you convey to the people that they do. And I think that words have only the power that you give them. And if we make it so that sex workers, the term is something that's more commonly used, it then has the respect that they'll recognize as people within society first.
Thank you. Are there any other inputs? I see the young lady. You may speak.
Okay, I'd like to, it seems like in our commission it was like, so the confusion between the legalization and the decriminalization. Legalization, we're not in favor of decriminalization, because decriminalization, I went to Amsterdam where I found that the legalization, no, Amsterdam, it's legalization, full legalization. So the legalization, it's, yes, I am a sex worker, but I don't expose my body. So when you look at the legalization, there will be more harassment from the police. There will be certain places where they will keep sex workers, and it's exposed, and we have to stand in the classes where we are naked. So it means that we don't want that. And there will be laws that will be telling us from here to here. Under decriminalization, under the criminal democracy in South Africa, everyone have a right of movement, freedom of movement. So if government saying that legalize us, will tell us from here to there. If you move from there and you cross that, so there will be more harassing. Police will be more harassing us, and it's not reducing GPV. It's not reducing HIV. It's not reducing anything, enter of the children. And there will be this thing of they want to force us to test, of which in the democracy of South Africa and in the constitution, we have a right to test when you are ready. But if we take a legalization, we'll be forcing us to test all the time. Maybe they will say after 3 months we have to test. So legalization, we're not in favor of legalization. We're in favor of decriminalization. Decriminalization, it's where all the industry will be well organized. We will be able to work hand to hand and having partnership with SAPS and HOGS, so that we can able to report such as exploitation, trafficking that we're seeing, gender-based violence, human rights violations, and exercise our rights as human beings, as South African citizens. So decriminalization is the only way that we can able to split all the crimes and split all the things, and then sex workers, they will feel comfortable to identify themselves as sex workers without fear in South Africa. But sex work, it's work. It's where we believe. We're not saying that there is sex workers who not want to stay in the industry. There is sex workers who want to stay in the industry. There is sex workers who want to move from the industry. But we're not able to see all those things because under criminalization, the system. So there's a lot of sex workers underground. Decriminalization, everyone will say, I am a sex worker without fear.
Order, please. Thank you, ma'am, for your input. Ladies, it's evident, members, that there is a lot of work to be done, This is a fairly contentious theme. It talks to the words we use, prostitute, sex worker. We talk about decriminalization versus legislation. So I am going to have to put the matter of the report, but I do believe that this is a topic on its own, that once we've adopted and we've moved on, we have a database, and I was going to share this at the end, but just to let you know that we might want to do a focus group where we get a small group of women together, 15, 20 women, to talk through and flesh it out, because otherwise we will sit here for the rest of the day debating the matter. So there has been a report that should be tabled. Would you want to accept that when I put the question for the report, that it be accepted with the amendments and the provision that the matter will be deliberated further before it gets passed and presented to the House? Do I have the approval of the guests on that by a show of hands? Thank you, members. We can then move on. That concludes the debate on the second report. I will now ask the Secretary, and please bear with me, I'm very mindful of time, so I need to ask the Secretary to now read the third order of the day.
Debate on Commission's Freeze report, combating femicide in the Western Cape.
Members, may I then ask and recognize the third rapporteur for this working group, and if I could be as bold to say, I recognize you, Jackie. Thank you.
My name is Jacqueline Gordon. We as a group deal with the feminicide or feminine side. Feminicide is a sex of abuse and hate crime, terms broadly defined as the intention of killing female women girls because they are female. The definition vary depending on the cultural content. Femicide is defined as killing of women, in particular by men, on account of their gender. Why? They fail the criminal justice system. We need mass mobilization in standing together. National competency, subversive criminal justice system is flawed. The access to information around basic legislation, example, Domestic Violence Act, is not there. And this leads to the misconception that women and girls can be used and mistreated. Rights of women are not known. Educating our girls and boys, children, and changing the mindsets. There is no communication between detectives, NGOs, and community workers when it comes to cases being filed by SUBS. SUBS is not protecting our women and girl children. Patriotism, socialism of the people need to be changed, and there should be gender mainstreaming. We should look at issues from gender perspective. As we said, we want Parliament to enforce that the structures must be established in our local authorities, the gender structures. Now we have one of our ladies in our group that will tell a story about a situation, and she's going to tell us a story.
Thank you, Jackie. I recognize Anna. You're going to share your story as part of the feedback.
Hi, my name is Anna. I'm from Riversdale. I will tell you shorten about my story that I told my group. I will do it in Afrikaans, if it's right with the house. Ek het my hande verloor toe ek 'n babatjie van 8 maande oud was. En ek was self 'n victim, want ek was in denial in terms van wat van sou ek iemand kry om my lewe mee te deel, sou ek eendag kinders hê. En alles het in plek geval tot op 'n sekere stadium waar ek abused was deur my oudste seun se pa, waar ek gevoel het ek word net misbruik tot sy voordeel. Misbruik waar hy gevoel het hy kan 'n goeie meisie in terme van 'n vrou met hande kry, waar hy kan terugval om my te misbruik tot sy eie voordeel. Totdat ek besluit het genoeg is genoeg. Ek is mos 'n normale mens. In die action van my ma, wat is nie my rolmodel, het sy my die sterk karakter en leiereienskappe gegee wat ek vandag is. Ek het geleer dat ek is 'n normale mens. Ek het nog steeds 'n brein wat kan regverdig tussen reg en verkeerd. Wat beteken ek het aan die Hemelse Vader gesê dankie dat jy my gesondheid gegee het. Hande is nie alles nie, maar as jy 'n gesonde brein het, kan jy vir jou 'n regte leefstyl inleef. Daarmee saamgepaard praat ek in terme van ek het drome gehad. Ek wou onderwyseres word, maar hoe? Ek moes die skool verlaat, staan dit 7. Waar government sê vir my ma, sorry mevrou, ons kan nie vir jou kind 'n grant gee nie, unless jy vir haar in 'n gestremde skool sit. My ma op daai stadium, haar kind is nie gestrem nie. Haar kind het nie hande nie. Ek is dankbaar vir Rooikruis Hospitaal, vir Prins Alice skool wat alles probeer het deur vir my kind se hande te gee. Ek kon nie daarmee werk nie. Vandag kyk ek terug, het ek baie suksese behaal. Ek leef vir my gemeenskap. Ek werk vir 13 jaar by ons polisiestasie as 'n traumawerker. Ek het myself beloof dat ek gaan my lewe neerlê vir victims wat nie proud enough is om op te kan staan, om te kan sê, ek het hulp nodig nie. Ek is 'n motiveringsspreker wat praat oor my lewe, waar ek vandaan kom as 'n gestremde persoon. Ek is trots op wie ek is. Ek het vir my 'n motto saamgestel wat sê, ek het 'n gebrek gekry, sodat ek kan leer om nederig te wees, om by die Here te kan vra, en nie alles as selfsprekend te aanvaar nie. So elke vrou of elke mens, elke jong dogter het 'n reg om mens te wees na wie hy of sy wil opgroei. Baie dankie.
Baie dankie, Anna. Dit was regtig 'n storie. Thank you, Jackie. You may proceed.
We have a few solutions. One of is women must stand together, mobilize and support one another, not just in their communities, but look holistically to the bigger issues of women across the country. Inform policies using real issues on the ground, adopt and strengthen our sound policies and enforceable legislation for the promotion of gender equality and empowerment of all women and girls at all levels, and all forms of discrimination against all women and girls. Eliminate all forms of violence against women and girls in the public and private squares, looking at prevention, protection and prosecution. Partnerships between NGOs, state and business to be developed as a set of programs looking at prevention, protection and prosecution, collective outlook and strategy. Changing the role of media and social media perpetrators in the patriarchal society. Education of the legislation and workshops, especially in rural communities. Information given to our community should be simplified for communities to understanding. Example, the language to Afrikaans. EPWP programs need to be utilized properly in order to get maximum accountabilities and to restore dignity. Intergenerational dialogue for healthy relationships. Going back to basics with door-to-door campaigning, because I raise this every year look at 2019, we as political parties going and we canvass for our parties. But we need to go now on and go and look in our houses of our people, because our woman is sitting there. Our women and our children who will be our next leaders, who will be our next president is in their house where there is domestic violence. So let us go out and help our people and help South Africa. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Jackie. That concludes the debate on the third and final report. I see the Honourable Makaleni, I see Honourable Bierwinkel.
Chairperson or Speaker, I think it would be very wrong of this meeting to live with the understanding that South African Police Service does not protect our people. We might not be entirely satisfied, but it would be wrong if we will conclude on that. the number of instances where we can quote where the South African Police Services has come through for our victims. But maybe we should say that relationship should be improved, and maybe there should be some sort of monitoring to ensure that whatever they're doing it the same way that we want to be done. In fact, Tutuzela has also quoted that sometimes they don't understand what is done by the detectives. Maybe also we should say that there should be some sort of way to bridge the communication between the two. By the way it's been presented, it does not come across the way we're intending to. But what basically saying is we need to improve that relationship between the victims and the South African Police Services.
Thank you, Member Makaleni. Member Bierwinkel.
Chair, yeah, I also agree that the report cannot go out as is because we are not addressing the core of femicide, which is men attacking women. And we have to go to the basics. What we are addressing when we talk about what happens at the police station and how much assistance police give or government gives or national legislation gives us, that's the end. We need to go to the beginning, the core, that is the what?
The root cause.
The root cause, thank you, Speaker. The root cause of the problem is the mindset of men that needs to change to accept us as women who have rights as well. That's not coming out in the report.
Thank you, Honourable Bierwinkel. If I may, before anyone else speaks, we were hoping to get a survivor of femicide to actually speak to us, and someone who's been through the process but were unable to secure the services. Hence, John spoke on the process after something has happened to you. What I just want to conclude this piece of work, and then we're going to talk to the way forward. But I acknowledge that before I can put the question to ask, are there any objections to the report being adopted, that the report be amended to include a better working relationships with the South African Protection Services, which is the first thing that I heard. And then I think that the matter of femicide, as in the previous theme, be deliberated in a smaller focus group with an actual victim or victims of femicide. And we were hoping that Griselda Grootboom would have been with us today. We are looking to secure her services further down the line, and I think that might present another opportunity for a dialogue. So can I then, bearing those questions, oh, there is a hand. Before we get to the report, I recognize the member, the guest.
I just wanted to say that I think that the education of young men is extremely important in femicide, because I think that teaching them from young ages that women deserve the same rights as them, to from a young age destroy such things like locker room talk, like belittling women, to show them that women need to be respected in the way that they would respect other men, and to not call them names and catcall them. And I think those kind of things really need to be addressed, because that's the beginning, and I think that's one of the biggest root causes of femicide once men are older.
Thank you very much. That is valuable input. I too agree and concur with you as a parent of a male child, son. It starts in the home. It's the examples that get set in our home, and we do know that I think one of our presenters, Claudia, talks about broken families and how we work through that. But in that too is another topic that emerges. So it does seem as if there's room for dialogue, constant ongoing dialogue, because we cannot box these themes and say, okay, we've now dealt with human trafficking. And what I've discovered, it's transversal. It cuts across many areas, and it also across many spectrums of society. So we could spend all day here, but we need to get, and I will recognize the hand there shortly, we need to understand that to heal our broken community and society requires a holistic approach. It cannot be dealt in a piecemeal manner. And what we are doing today is just one aspect of that huge big puzzle. And slowly, as a committed group of women, we are now the core group. You have come out to Parliament, you will work with us, so we will then take it forward. But let me not get into my thank you, but so I'm going to ask with the permission of the members, can we accept that we adopt the topic 3 with the amendments regarding SAPs and the need to have further deliberation? And I need to ask the question, are there any objections to the report? The report which Jackie presented. Now, you're accepting the report, but with the amendments regarding SAPs and all the other, and the fact that there would need to be another conversation. Thank you. Sorry, the young lady. So there's 2 members down there, guests down there.
Thank you. Just lastly, could we also include that these issues are included in the syllabus for life orientation? It's one of the only compulsory subjects that people have to take at school. And when it's something that we have to learn, those young boys and us young girls have to sit there and listen to what's going on, and have to study it for exams, have to write about it, have to use that information and actually process it. And when it's just like, when we're just told that you can get a pamphlet, you can ask them for information, you don't necessarily want to do that, but if you're forced to listen to it in class, then it's information you will actually have no reason not to have used.
Thank you very much. I recognize Caroline Peters.
Okay, Madam Speaker, thank you. I just want to say, in 1996, when the femicide study was done, the Western Cape Network on Violence Against Women then had a campaign called Every 6 Days. That research was done by Naima Abrams. 6 years later, Shanaz Matthews did the same study, and it was every 6 hours. So 4 women a day is affected by femicide. Also, as a survivor of femicide, I wish to add to the report the justice system, the lack of, the support that the justice system provides women of femicide. So I'd like to add to the report that we include the justice system, the lack of the service of justice system. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Honourable Diana, your hand.
Thank you, Speaker. I think I'm covered because I was also going to talk about the justice, not forgetting that we must also include the trend of education because there's a lack of issue of education. We must also include it in our report.
Thank you, Honourable Diana. The education has now been elevated. It's right up top there. I'd like to recognise the lady right up front.
Thank you, Speaker. Good afternoon, everyone. I think there's something missing in this discussion. We've never mentioned the LGBTI community. And there's a great discrimination and a great, I don't know how to say this in English, but there's community LGBTI, especially trans people. Yeah. It's like they are treated like stepchildren of our societies, and I think we need to focus dearly on that community. There's a lot of education and sensitization around the issues about the LGBTIQ community. So, yeah.
Thank you very much. Honourable members and guests, we got to the point now where we would need to talk to these reports, but you know what has become very clear? That there is still so much work to be done. And I can't even begin to imagine how we're going to get through this if we do it individually and independently. And I think today is the start of a process. And it's really, today for me has been profound. It's been a journey of discovery. But I need to ask, and this is just the procedural aspect, and I need the members to pay attention. Can I then ask that the reports will be forwarded to the relevant standing committees and the ministers for input after we have ratified and cleaned it up? Does that meet with the approval of the members? In fact, my recommendation is going to be that the resolutions, we have taken the reports here today, we take back to our multi-party working group first. And we then unpack and clean it up there, and then we do whatever other processes, and then we take it to the House if the members are in agreement. Sorry. I see hands up there. Member Botha, you have a question? Oh, you may certainly do so, Member Botha.
Thank you, Speaker. I just want to say that in saying what we are saying, please let us put a timeline to this, because otherwise it goes missing in the system.
Thank you very much. That's an action-oriented outcome. So we need to go there. Can I then ask, that we've agreed that the reports have been done. Yes, Member Bierwinkel.
I think we can leave here just talking about the reports that came out today. There was another resolution that the multi-party commission, if I want to call ourselves that, took, was that we would record certain stories. Now, I'd like to know the way forward before people leave here, that they know how we're going to deal with that part.
I will cover that in my closing comments, Honourable Bierwinkel. Thank you. Okay. Sorry, the staff have just said to me that the book, Member Mr. Ferndale, you can pass it along, and the ladies can fill it in while they're sitting there. It's been a long day. And let me firstly say thank you very much for many of you who have sacrificed a long journey to come and actually spend a full day with us. Few members have left, and those who have left have apologized beforehand to indicate that they had prior arrangements and commitments. And I really want to thank the members of the multi-party committee for making it possible. They invited members of the community, delegates, and as you can see, we're limited. So I would love to take this and replicate it everywhere. But funding is always a constraint. But I do commit that this is our first event, and I speak on behalf of the multi-party committee, that our dialogue is the first of its kind in this term that we are in. But we do have a plan for 16 days of no violence. We do have delegates who are going to represent this institution at the Commonwealth Women's Parliament, which is going to be the Africa Region 1, will be hosted in October, the 20th to the 25th. We will be sending a delegation. And then I will lead a delegation to the International Women's Parliament in Bangladesh in November. So and the reason I state this is so that you can see the impact of your contribution to the bigger picture, because whatever you have contributed today is going to be documented and recorded. And we are going to try and come up with a coffee table kind of book, or a little booklet that talks to our efforts and what we have put in today, so it can signify the start of something real. Member Botha has talked to timelines. It is a very busy period, but we now have every person on a database. And ladies, here I'm appealing to you again. Many of you come from different organizations. Traditionally out there, you might not work with each other, but what I saw today was an outpouring from one woman to another. And I want to say to you, when you go back out into your communities, let's be the example that we want, the change that we want to see. And before I get to the final closing, and I need to alert my members, I'm now going to put you on the spot after the program director has said a few words in closing. I'm going to call out the names of presenters who have been with us, and I'd like to ask a member to come up at a time to present the women who have been identified as making a contribution. And sadly, I only have 14 little bouquets. I don't have enough for everyone, but that you assist by handing over the bouquet to a member in question. And Mr. Retief will record that for the record. I would now like to recognize and also thank our program director, Ms. Lucinda Evans. You have 5 minutes, Ms. Evans. Thank you.
Thank you, Speaker. I would like to start off by saying thank you to the Multi-Party Committee for this amazing day. Thank you for bringing the community into your space. Change needs to start with us. It starts with me. And if we want peace in the home and peace in the family, we need to be the peace givers and the peace bringers. And that is very difficult at this point in time. Speaker, you know, sometimes I am controversial. I'm unapologetic about it, and I cringe when we speak about budget in the same line as women. Thank you, ma'am. And I'm not going to be as controversial, but I need to be. There needs to be a budget. We need to make what we have spoken today a reality. Thank you to the member that spoke of timelines. And we are against the clock. And I'll tell you why, members and guests, because we have realities with our sisters on my left that are being harassed, raped by the South African Police Services. I have nothing against the police. I'm a volunteer in a patriarchy space pushing the agenda for women. And it's 10 times worse because I'm a volunteer. And we need to look at timelines with your help. And I'm appealing to the help of the multi-party committee that we can address the issues of police officers that will knock on a door where there's a grade 7 learner and we can say ... I want to acknowledge the fact that services for able-bodied women is a challenge. It's even more with disabled women. And so we need to look at where is our priority in terms of what we advocate. Services in the metro is also a challenge. It is more so, and please forgive me for the word, rural. How do we take the information from the metro to the rural? So, Speaker, I would like to also put in your bouquet, in your cup, that this process, and I want to commend once again the multi-party committee for getting us out of the block. But now we need to take this to the ground, to the community centers, to the school halls, and call the meeting with the women together. We cannot just have this meeting here. It was a good Saturday, the food was nice. We need to take it out there. I would also like to speak about a little bit about femicide and the big understanding that so many of people in our areas don't understand what femicide is. It is a reality, and we don't have the stats. Sometimes what looks like suicide is not a suicide. And do we really have the accuracy in the research around femicide? And do we still become irate that, for an example, Mrs. Farmer's daughter, who was killed 17 years ago, that the Department of Correctional Services failed the farmer family, Valencia farmers, to inform them that the perpetrator was going to be released. And on the day the perpetrator was released, the family got to hear about it. And so we're still sitting with those type of issues. Nou, ek is 'n vrou van die flats. I grew up in the flats and I'm still living in the community where I am. And if we currently look at what is happening, not on the Cape Flats, but overall with issues of rape in the schools, where the educators are too afraid to report these cases. And thank you to the sisters, the young sisters that brought up the Department of Education. We need to look at what is happening at the universities when the training of the future teachers are taking place. Because in that curriculum, it doesn't address the realities that the teachers come into the schools too. So they're not even adequately equipped to look at sexual bullying and to look at rape. I want to conclude in saying, and I want to put it back to the multi-party committee. And when I spoke about this morning, it's about the mindset. How are you going to help us to push number one, which I didn't hear today, the equality of women in this country, in the provinces, because equally is still but a dream for us. How are you going to take our hands to speak about the atrocities that is currently happening with women And it's not just that the police only action when my eye is blue, because psychological abuse is underreported, because the police officers, and I say this with all due respect and love, only gets a half a day of training at the training college for domestic violence. And if we hear about what our sister Caroline said, what the rates are, there is so much more work to do. Thank you very much again to the multi-party committee for giving us as civil society hope. Thank you that we could take what we've learned today back to our constituency. I thank you, Speaker.
Thank you, Ms. Evans. Honourable members and guests, I think that before I say concludes the business for the day, I would just like to express my thanks in a sense that when we started out this morning, I think it was Farida who spoke. Is Farida still here? No, she's had to leave. But Farida talked about the sustainable goals, and we know that Goal 5 talks to gender equality. And our purpose for this dialogue today was focused on the first three. And the first one says it ends all forms of discrimination against all women and girls everywhere. So that includes metro, rural, local, national, international. Eliminate all forms of violence against all women and girls in the public and private spheres, including trafficking and sexual and other types of exploitation. Eliminate all harmful practices such as child, early and forced marriages, and female genital mutilation. Those are the first three bullet points of the SDG 5, which is gender equality. We have merely scratched the surface if you look at the themes that we have adopted, but I must acknowledge as a collective we had to start somewhere. What has become apparent to me is how little we actually know about what is really going on. And I don't know if you will share with me, but watching those video clips this morning, I was actually quite emotional. And they often say a picture can say more than 1,000 words. And I sat there and I was choking up because it just made me realize how vulnerable we are as women. And then why it is so important for us as women to collaborate and work together and raise each other up rather than break each other down. I also remember Farida saying she would like to see us as a legislature, and she talks to the last bullet point of SDG 5, and that is to adopt and strengthen sound policies and enforceable legislation for the promotion of gender equality and the empowerment of all women and girls at all levels. And I think that is ultimately what we are charged with as members of parliament and as public reps. We need to interrogate the legislation, we need to look at the policies, and where there are gaps, we would need to address them. And it has become apparent today that there are gaps and loopholes in the system. What I do want to touch on, and Ms. Evans, you talked about budget, there is something that is close to my heart, and it's called gender-based budgeting. And we actually need to work towards gender-based budgeting, which is part of the International Women's Parliament agenda, because often in parliaments and legislatures, the women have to go and virtually beg for money for their committee to do something or to effect a program. And we have been very lucky. I work closely with the speakers of other legislatures. We have a body called the National Speakers Forum, and it is at that place and point where we agree on what the project and the program is going to be for women. So I can tell you that women and youth are clearly in the sights of the Legislative Sector Support Unit, which is the unit that supports the Speakers Forum. So I have to accept responsibility as the custodian of this institution that I will take the inputs that have been presented today and I will take it to the multi-party committee and we will then deliberate further. I must also, though, touch on the point the young lady made at the bottom end there, is the need for the transversal approach. We heard the Department of Education, the Department of Health, community safety. So again, it brings us back to the matter of it takes a community to raise a child. And I am of the opinion that your child is my child. I had the privilege of living in the Negev desert in 2003 in a kibbutz. And at that point, if a child came home from school and was thirsty, he or she could knock on any door to ask for a glass of water. And if a child was left alone, an adult would take responsibility for that child. And I am saying we need to get back to that place where, as parents, we are not in denial around our children, because we are going to get to another topic that is very close to my heart, and that is the issue of substance abuse. And how often as parents we tend to want to shy away from the issue. And today we talk to the elephant in the room, the issue of sex workers, because people say it's something, but it's out there. And I think we made some kind of headway by just acknowledging it as a theme today and talking to it. So I remain committed, and I want to say we will do our best. The difficulty we have as a parliament is we cannot invite the same stakeholders all the time. And I trust, I'm going to be very transparent, I trust that you will bear with me on this, because often people go and talk to their colleagues and they say, but ek was nie genooi nie, hoekom was ek nie daar nie? And unfortunately, that is the nature of the beast. But we do have a plan as a multi-party women's caucus to take parliament to the people, the women's parliament, and also these dialogues to communities where we can get closer to the ground and begin to understand what is really going on. So on that note, I would like to thank you all for your contribution to the success of what I thought was for me, it was profound in that it touched a part of my soul. I don't know how the rest of you were affected by it, but I really felt that this was just not another talk shop or another means of spending money, but we actually got into something deep. And Anna, jou story het my geraak. So I just want you to know that if a story touched one person today, if one statement that was made has touched one individual, then it was worthwhile coming here. So I would like to say to all of you, thank you. I must thank my support team. They're not here. You can see they operate very discreetly, but I think you will all agree with me that they've done a superb job. And at this stage, I'm going to ask the members to be on the ready. You don't have to be in any sequence, members. I'm just going to recognize a few women who have been here. And the first person I want to recognize, but I'm not going to ask her to get a bouquet because I know she's going to Uber to a board meeting somewhere. So Lucinda Evans, as our program director, you will get a bouquet, but nie vandag nie. Then I'd like to call up, Member Gopi, would you come up? And I'd like to ask you to present a bouquet to our Salga delegate, Ms. Patricia Franke. Thank you. Ms. James. Thank you very much for your contribution. Then I'd like to ask the next Member of Parliament, may I ask Ms. Schaefer, can I ask you to come up and hand a bouquet to Duduzile Dlamini from Sweat. Thank you, Dudu. Thank you so much for being here. I don't know where James is with the pictures. Sorry, guys, but then I'd like to call Member Bierwinkel. Could I ask you to come and present to Ms. Caroline Peters, who is previously from Sarki Bartman, but I believe she's now with the City of Cape Town. Oh, well, Carol and Caroline, there the two of you go. Thank you very much, and thank you, Caroline, for being here today. Thank you very much. Then I'd like to call Anna up. Anna, if you could come up and collect a bouquet. Thank you. Your story was very touching. And I really believe that I'm going to pop by Riversdale sometime and come and say hello to you en route in my travels. Can Anna come take pictures? A member. Oh, no, sorry. Dorothea Gopi. Maseko. Honorable Maseko. Sorry. You ladies, do you see what happens? It's my member, it's my guest. Dan sê ek sommer dis al my mense. Thank you very much, Anna. I think you might want to turn for a picture. Thank you very much. And then I'm running out of members. Polisa Makaleni, could I ask you to come and hand a bouquet to Kolisa from Sweat?
Yeah, it's honorable.
It's the honorable, oh gosh, I must call myself to order here. The honorable Makaleni. I must say our house has been very good today. The Honourable Makaleni, thank you very much. The members will, you know, this is the Women's Parliament, but you know why? Everyone's sitting on this side of the house and it's so calm. It's unbelievable. Someone's going to rise on a point of order, but thank you. Then may I call Mireille Wenger. Can I ask you to come and present a bouquet to Sumaya Talib, please? Thank you. Is Jean Bodenstein still with us? No, she's left. There we go. Thank you very much for being here and the good work that you do. And then I'd like to call up Member Nkondlo and Member Buerta to please hand our guest from the Women's Peace Group. Are you alone or by yourself? Well, if Member Nkondlo, if you could assist in this regard. Here she is coming from the other side. Got to take the picture, yes? Thank you. And is there a member I haven't called yet? Member Diana and Member Buerta. Can I ask Member Diana to come and hand a bouquet to Jackie Gordon, please? Is Jackie here? Jackie, there goes Jackie Gordon. Diana. Right. Order, please. Order, please. Ladies, unfortunately, I don't know anyone's political affiliation. Ek weet nie wie speel met wie nie. Ek roep maar net die name nou. So then, may I ask which Member Buerta, could I ask you to hand a bouquet to Colleen Ryan from the Black Sash, who is with us today? Thank you. Yep, the women in black, thank you very much. Colleen, thank you for your contribution in the SASSA debate. And then I needed to recognize Thank you, ladies. I needed to recognize, is it Farida Raycliffe, but I think she's left. Is there anyone who was with Farida who is still here? No? They've left. And then Jean Woerdenstein from Rape Crisis, has she left? Is there anyone else from Rape Crisis here? All right, I think, ladies, I'm trying to work through a listing that was given to me. Is Ms. Chakotsa has also left, so she's left. Jean's left. And then I think I'm stuck with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So there might be institutions represented here. And, sorry, excuse me. Sarki Bartman in the house, the representative from Sarki Bartman. Yeah, no, I was just going to say the rapporteurs will be, but is there someone from Sarki Bartman? No? The lady that took the picture with me, a tall lady, she was from an institution, as she left already. Okay. Well, I think, you see, this is the difficult part, and I don't want anyone throwing bottles of water at me. So I think, members, do you agree, in fairness, we recognize the rapporteurs who have stood and presented? Do I have your agreement? May I then, which member have I not called yet? No, our members. Member Lekker, where is the Honourable Lekker? Are you, they sit here daarachter, kom vorentoe, asseblief. Honourable Lekker, could I ask you to hand a bouquet to the first rapporteur, please? Group 1, thank you.
I object, Speaker. There's a relationship there.
Wow.
There's a relationship there. I object, Speaker.
Ladies, again I say, I don't know who's related to who belongs where, asseblief mense. But they're both petite and tiny. Thank you very much. Is there any other member of Parliament that I have missed?
Speaker.
Sorry?
Speaker.
Oh, no.
This side.
I see you. Sorry. Order, please, members. Guests, order.
It's a point of order, Speaker. Is it parliamentary for a member not to have shoes?
Not to have shoes.
It's privilege. It's privilege.
So let's do the lesson. That is actually not a point of order. That is a debating point. May we proceed, honourable members?
Yes. Can I suggest something?
Yes.
Can you please give? What is your name, Lana? One.
The second rapporteur. Alrighty.
I'll volunteer myself.
There we go. Honourable Makaleni has volunteered. You see, you snooze, you lose in this parliament. Ladies, let us just get through this in a fair manner, but yet without any recrimination. We don't want to be stuck, and so yes, there we go. I really, we've still got, what, 1, 2, 3.
Speaker, I may suggest now.
Hold on. I hear you. I've got 2 bouquets for 2 rapporteurs, and then I have 1 special bouquet, which I will announce at the end of the day. So I'm with you, Honourable Diana. Yes, Member Bierwinkel. Yes, Member Bierwinkel. Yes. Yes. It's actually 44 where I order you to leave.
In order, Speaker.
Yes.
Yeah. Speaker, there's somebody in this house who does sterling work in the community for months now, in every aspect of the community, without being paid a cent by anyone. I really think she deserves a bouquet, and I want you to favorably consider my request.
And who might that be?
The lady in blue. Heather.
Absolutely. If the House is of the opinion that we go with Heather, And since you have put the proposal, you may come forward and give Heather the bouquet. Now we need to get one of those big ones quickly. A big bouquet. Have we only got 2 left? Okay. But we still, members, please guide me. Do I still need to recognize 2 rapporteurs? Am I correct? So she's gone. So hold on, Wayne, hold on, please, it's fine. We need one. Who's the 3rd rapporteur? She's sorted, Jackie. Who was the 2nd rapporteur? They attended to, and the 1st rapporteur is attended to. So we have 2 left. I see the Honourable Lekker's hand. Honourable Lekker.
Thank you, Speaker. My name is Pat Lekker once again. Speaker, I would like to recognize one prominent woman. Her name is Ndombo Xolo. She resides in an area called Silver City in Tafelberg. She runs an organization called Isidima Sam. She also operates in the area of Philippi. I would like her to be recognized as a prominent woman. The project Isidima Sam is a very powerful organization in the area, which looks on women who are victimized in their households and in the society. I thank you, Speaker.
Thank you, Honourable Lekker. Members and guests, a recommendation has been made. Are we in agreement? Yes. If we are in agreement, could I ask the Honourable Lekker to come up and the guest in question? Ladies, this is not exactly the way it was supposed to work out, but you know what? It's working out. And let us do it with love and let it go. And the next time round, I see the Honourable Maseko. Let's just first take the picture. Let's get this piece of work done. And to say thank you for the contribution you bring to the community, ma'am. Thank you very much. There is only one bouquet, Honourable Maseko, before you speak, and I have intentions for this bouquet. And I am going to use my speaker's privilege. And I'm just going to ask you before you speak, whilst you're on the floor, if you agree with me that it must go to the only male in this house, then we're on the same page.
In fact, I was standing up so that I can present that.
Well, you can come forward and present it. Thank you. To the very brave gentleman who stuck it through with us all day long, thank you, thank you, thank you so much. We do need more men like you to come and join us at these activities. So thank you so, so much. Ladies?
Speaker.
Yes, there's a member on the floor, Honourable Makaleni. Yes.
Thank you, Speaker.
So,
through you, Speaker.
So let's just hold on. There's a need for Honourable Ms. Makaleni. Can you take your seat, please? There's a need for a photo shoot quickly. The attendance register is also going around. Thank you. All righty, thank you very much. And then, honourable members, before you leave, there are some logistical issues which I am not aware of that the support team deals with. And it's especially for people who are booked into hotels and who need to travel out of town. So don't just go scooting off, because I'm sure Mr. Ferndale has certain instructions or acknowledgements that he wants to do. And then I need to, before we go, recognize the Honourable Makaleni. Do you want to do the closing?
I'm covered.
Thank you.
Oh.
You may as well just do that.
On the spot, Speaker. Let me take this opportunity to thank every woman that is here. We have co-opted him. He is also a woman, which stands for men with extraordinary strength. That's what we are. It has been clear across this presentation that if women stand together, there's nothing that can stand in front of our way. And also it came across that inside ourselves, there's something that is very strong that can take us to reach each and every dream that we have. So there shall be nothing that can stop us. Whatever we want as women, we can achieve. Whatever dreams we have for our children, for our country, for our future is attainable. I am particularly impressed by my constituency members. And unfortunately, I'm taking this opportunity because I'm standing here. And those two young ladies have represented our constituency very well. Not that you have not done that, ladies, from your constituency. But Speaker, thank you very much to you and to the caucus and to everyone that has made today a success. In fact, without you, this program wouldn't have been a success. In fact, you must know whatever we have been deliberating on here is going to the International Women's Parliament. So you have made a contribution to the entire continent. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Honourable Makaleni. Ladies, I'm going to break with the tradition, but before we leave, I'm going to ask the Honourable Botha to close in prayer because there are members who are going to be travelling to distant ends of our province, Beaufort West, Lutzville, all sorts of places. So may we just close our proceedings with a prayer, please. Honourable Member, thank you. Order, please.
Dankie, Speaker. Ek gaan vra vir almal om te staan en ek doen my gebed in my maataal, hoor, my maatong. Heer, so kom ons nou in die middag na u toe om dankie te sê vir 'n dag wat baie goed afgeloop het, goed beplan is en vir die wysheid wat hier uitgekom het. En ook vir die lewenservaring wat gedeel is en die platform wat geskep is vir elkeen om dit te kan deel. Maar Here, so weet ons ook as leiers in ons gemeenskappe is die verantwoordelikheid nog steeds met ons en by ons om ons gemeenskappe te kan lei. So kom ek en ek vra dat u wysheid en u sterkte vir ons sal gee sodat ons hierdie besluite wat vandag geneem is en die besluite wat ons elkeen self geneem het, dat ons dit terug kan vat na ons gemeenskappe, sodat ons die leiding kan neem, dat daar verandering in ons gemeenskappe is, want so het ons vandag die erkenning gegee vir dit wat verkeerd loop in ons gemeenskappe. En ek vra vir elke vrou en elkeen wat hier teenwoordig is, dat hulle die wysheid van u saam met hulle sal neem in enige besluit en enige leiding wat hulle sal neem in hulle gemeenskappe. Ek sê ook en ek dra ook op aan u vir haar wat hierdie dag moontlik gemaak het as deel van haar leiding in haar gemeenskap, maar ook in die leiding van hierdie huis wat verantwoordelik is vir die ontwikkeling en elke gemeenskapsdaarstelling wat ons as verantwoordbare openbare verteenwoordigers voorstaan. Ek vra ook Heer dat almal wat van ver gekom het, hulle wat nou gereed maak om terug te reis na hulle huise toe, dat hulle hulle huise so sal vind soos wat hulle dit agtergelaat het gister en dat daar geen skade of geen onaangenaamheid vir hulle sal wag nie. En ek bid ook vra ook Here dat die bestuurders van die voertuie waarin hulle sal ry, dat u die pad vooruit sal gaan en dat u ook die hande sal wees op die stuurwiel wat die voertuig sal ry waarin hulle sal reis. So bid en kom het en ek vra en ek gee die gebed nie omdat ons dit verdien of omdat ons dit kan verdien nie, maar alleen in u genade. Amen.
Amen. Honourable members, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the business for the day. The House is adjourned.